because that's how they got to be billion-dollar insurance companies. If you've been injured, I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7969.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21 12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Friday. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. We'll get you to the weekend here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Preston Guy, 15 minutes from right now, talking some football. Got to get you ready for Conference Championship Week in the National Football League. Can Jaden Daniels get it done once again? SEC basketball, including LSU and Alabama. We're going to do all of that, plus the Saints, who kind of have their pick of the litter now in the NFL coaching waters. All that's coming up over the next 2 hours, but we're going to start with baseball the same way we start each and every day. That's with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Jay Johnson and a handful of his older players took to the microphones today as the snow was melting off the Alec Box Stadium roofs. That's maybe not a first all time. It does snow every once in a while in January, but it doesn't happen very often that they're cranking things up from a baseball perspective at Alec Box Stadium, and they're getting snow out of the way, but that is the case here, and they're off and running for the next 3 weeks before the season opener, 3 weeks from right about now, quite honestly. At the box against Purdue Fort Wayne. And so I wanted to start with what kind of I heard from Jay Johnson today. I got used to the Pulmonary Media Day. And the Pulmonary Media Day, he literally went through the entire diamond and the batting order just about 3 weeks out and gave you almost everything. I mean, he was going to go through everything. Ed Ogeron was the same way at the podium at SEC Media Days. You could go through the whole depth chart. And Jay Johnson hasn't necessarily done that. He will take questions, and I thought he was rather candid today, kind of talking through some of the situations they're working through over the course of the next 3 weeks to get ready for opening day. And what everybody wants to hear about is the pitching, because you've lost Gage Jump, and you've lost Luke Holman, and you've lost Griffin Herring. And I've got a story up at LouisianaSports.net right now, but these are some stats that I dug out when writing that today. When Griffin Herring pitched in SEC games, LSU went 7-4. 7-4. When he did not pitch in SEC games, they went 6-13. Y'all remember, like, he pitched every high-level spot that LSU had really the whole season. And they had to go to him earlier than they wanted to in the regional, and he was brilliant for 6 innings in that game. They didn't have him late, and they had to go to Gage Jump, and that didn't work out. But Herring was the guy, but Holman and Jump were fantastic in the starting rotation down the stretch as well. Of Gage Jump's last 7 starts, LSU went 6-1. Luke Holman's last 6 starts, LSU went 5-1. The one loss was the loss to North Carolina in the marble game of the regional in Chapel Hill. But the point remains, like, LSU won 11 of the last 13 starts that that Holman and Jump made, and basically Herring had to pitch for LSU to win. And those guys are gone. So the question is, like, who do you have now that can pitch in high leverage spots? And Jay Johnson didn't really shy away from kind of going after the names that he thinks are going to be high leverage pitchers on this team. The first name he mentioned, the first one, was Connor Ware. Now, I've talked about Connor Ware since the fall. I've written about Connor Ware. I said I think he's got Griffin Herring written all over him. And that's kind of what I expect Connor Ware to be. The other names he brought up, another name that I wrote about on Tuesday, if you read my mailbag on LouisianaSports.net, and somebody asked me for a breakout arm or breakout freshman, I think everybody's thinking William Schmidt, and I think William Schmidt's going to be great. But Kason Evans is a guy I've heard more about, and he was the second name that Jay Johnson mentioned. Then he went to Zach Cowan, from Wofford, Anthony Ianson from UC San Diego, Gavin Guidry, Cade Anderson, Chase Shores, names those are the names he kind of pushed out there as guys that are going to get stretched out over the next 3 weeks. It doesn't mean they're the only guys who are eligible to start a game this year. It doesn't mean that everybody else needs to pack it up and transfer. These are the guys they're going to get looks at for probably an extra inning at a time, 2 instead of 1, 3 instead of 2 over the course of the next 3 weeks to get ready. And I kind of feel like right now, if I had to guess the starting pitchers for LSU's first weekend, I would go with Cade Anderson, I would go with Gavin Guidry, and I would go with Chase Shores. I think Connor Ware is going to pitch in the back end of the bullpen, and I think they want to see very much Ianson and Cowan and Evans with Schmidt and a bunch of the guys that you'll see pitch over the course of the first 3 weeks where LSU plays a ton of baseball. But I think what's interesting is that you're going to see basically the first couple of weeks be auditions where guys are going to be kind of slated to go 2 innings, 3 innings, 4 innings, but maybe back-to-back. Maybe you see a starting pitcher go 3, and then you see a relief pitcher go 3 innings, and they're both kind of auditioning for the same thing. I don't think until probably a month down the line, you're going to see somebody try to give you 6 innings. I don't feel like Jay Johnson right now, and this sounds ridiculous now. Keep in mind, it didn't sound ridiculous in the middle of January in 2023. But in the middle of January in 2023, I think Jay Johnson saw Paul Skeens and goes, okay, he's going to be a weekend starter for us. Again, Paul Skeens was hitting some in the fall and had the ability to play some first base. He was not Paul Skeens yet. But Jay saw that's a guy that's going to start. And I don't know that he can point to anybody right now on that list and go, absolutely SEC starter, better than the 6 other guys on this list. That right now I don't think is the case. I told you earlier this week that I thought Cade Anderson was the leader to start opening day. Wouldn't start me if he didn't even start any of the 3 games. And I think a lot of people are looking at Chase Shores going, he's the ace. Hold on. He had a good fall, wasn't a dominant fall, and he's still learning to throw that slider. If you remember with Chase Shores, when he was coming out of the bullpen as a freshman, which he started in the rotation for the 23 team. Then he was moved into the bullpen, and he became a high-leverage bullpen guy and ultimately blew his elbow out pitching out of the bullpen in a huge spot against Tennessee on a that was a Friday game, being that it was game 2 of the series. He did not throw a lot of sliders. He was throwing a ton of just fastballs. And yeah, a 96-mile-an-hour fastball is good, but if you just throw a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, you're not starting in the SEC. Ty Floyd had to learn that. It took him 2 years. Chase Shores couldn't pitch last year. So it's still a work in progress. I am not telling you that Chase Shores can't be a dominant starting pitcher in the SEC. I'm just telling you that I don't think he is today. He didn't have to be today. They don't have a game. They have a scrimmage out of the box. But they're going to look at Gavin Guidry, who's holding his fastball a little bit better than he had previously. He can hold it at 93 or so a little bit longer. He's still got that hammer of a breaking ball, and he's developing a changeup. They're going to let him have an opportunity to see if he can pitch. And trust me, it's a good fallback plan to have Gavin Guidry. If he doesn't work out as a starter, hey, go to the back of the bullpen. We know what you can do in high leverage spots. He's been really, really good at that throughout the course of his career. Then you've got pitchability guys in Ianson and Cowan, and then this uber talent in Case and Evans, who I think probably caught the LSU coaching staff a little bit off guard in the fall because he got up to 99. He's sitting there at 95. He's got a really, really, really good changeup. And I know that everybody around here, because of proximity and the Major League Baseball draft and the talent and all the stuff that you've seen on YouTube and him coming on this station, everybody's going to talk William Schmidt, William Schmidt, William Schmidt. And that's great. I think you're going to see William Schmidt in the first 4 games that LSU plays. I don't know in what capacity, but he'll pitch. Case and Evans, I think right now the staff has more confidence in. And I don't think that's something that I was prepared to tell you in July. Nate Yeske is working with William Schmidt. They've got some things to iron out. He's a long, lanky dude, and that's a lot of moving pieces. And quite frankly, you don't have to locate much very well to strike high school kids out when you throw 97 miles an hour and you spin a breaking ball as well as some pitchers in Major League Baseball. And in terms of spin rate, William Schmidt's is that good in terms of just how tight he can spin it. The command, the pitchability side of things, he's still got work to do. And he's never played a college game, so it's no big deal. I think that there are going to be people that listen to me and go, oh, this guy's dogging Schmidt. Like, I didn't think he's any good. Not what I'm saying. I just think that it's interesting to kind of go through this list of names and look at the possibilities. And this is the reality of it. You really need 5 guys that are rock solid. LSU has had a hard time getting a third starting pitcher into the mix that's consistent. The gold standard, honestly, around here was that's 8 years ago in 2017 when Eric Walker nailed down that Sunday spot. You threw Lang in the opener, Poche in game 2, and then Walker came out there and threw strikes and change-ups and was awesome in game 3. Beyond that, like, you've struggled to find a game 3 guy. I would love to have that. I think it's a big help. It's not mandatory, but inevitably you need guys to start games in the postseason, and sometimes you got to count on Nate Ackenhausen to go beat Tennessee with 6 shutout innings. Sometimes you got to count on Will Helmers to go out there out of the bullpen in the final game of the regional and throw 6 brilliant innings, and you got to count on guys to do things they haven't done all year. I'd really prefer it if LSU had somebody step up and do it most of the year. And you don't have any proven commodities here. All of these guys have a question mark. Kason Evans is a freshman. Zach Cohen has never pitched in the SEC. He's a Wofford transfer. Anthony Ianson from out west, where they basically abandoned college baseball. Gavin Guidry, been a reliever for 2 years. Cade Anderson was a spot reliever last year and didn't really have a huge impact on the team. Jay Shores coming off Tommy John surgery. Connor Ware coming from junior college. Like, you don't have anybody that you're ready to just, boom, plug right in there and let's go. So you're going to have to look at all of them. And these 3 weeks are going to be very, very important. Some of the stuff that I'm telling you right now can change over the course of 3 weeks. But, like it did with Stephen Milam last year. At this point last year, Stephen Milam was a non-factor. His fall was so bad, it was not even worth having a discussion about. But they threw him out there for a couple of bats early on, and they started to see some things in practice, and all of a sudden, you got that guy in the lineup, and he ends up starting 60 games. So things can change over the next 3 weeks. I'm just kind of giving you what I saw in the fall, kind of what I've heard over the winter break, and then reading things through what Jay Johnson had to say today about his pitching staff. And I was pleasantly surprised as someone who covers the team, not necessarily as a fan of the team, but who covers the team and wants to have something to come on here and talk about. I was pleasantly surprised that he honestly laid out the group that he's looking at to stretch out at this point in the calendar. It's early. They got a lot of work to do. But that's kind of where things sit as of right now. You can go back and check out on YouTube everything Jay has to say. If you don't have time to sit there for 30 minutes and sift through all that sound, you can go read my piece on LouisianaSports.net. I kind of went through the entire diamond, talked about catcher, talked about the bullpen, talked about Milo and Braswell on the left side of the infield, had the discussion about who's going to play in the outfield, and the quotes are all there from Jay Johnson. So go over to LouisianaSports.net and check that out. It's right there at the top of the homepage. Certainly do appreciate that. That's our Genesis opening drive. Our Friday shows are brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Awesome day to get on by and grab a po' boy from our friends over there at Cork's. I highly suggest you do that, or just grab something to watch the football games on Sunday. If you got a whole crew coming over to watch the Commanders, Cork's can help you out with some catering. The whole menu's at corksfishandshrimp.com. All right, let's step aside Preston Guy when we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
I'm telling you about One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Safety can be a big, big issue in the bathroom. A lot of us were out there slipping on ice earlier this week. That can happen in the bathroom. Certainly for those who ages, that can be a very, very hazardous thing. So if you've got an aging loved one and you'd like to do some things in the bathroom to make things a little bit safer, mitigate some of that risk, they can do it. They can put non-slip floors in. They can do the guardrails and handrails around the slippery areas. They can put a walk-in tub to make things convenient, things safer. They can put a bench in the shower as well. All those things they do all the time at One Bath and Closets. So start your process with David Duvall and his team today. Go to OneBathAndClosets.com and request that free consultation. Have the conversation. Here's what we can do. Here's what it'll cost. Financing options are available if you're interested in that. It's all there at OneBathAndClosets.com. It's David Duvall and One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge.
You're listening to The Hun Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. This time in the show, we always talk to our guy, Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, on some LSU football. Preston, hope you made it through the snow just fine. How are you?
Hunt, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you for having me on today, despite baseball media day and basketball again going down tonight. Appreciate you for making time for me.
I would do 2 hours on baseball if I just had to do it exactly my way. But I am glad to have you aboard. We do need to talk a little bit about football. The transfer portal, as far as entrants go, is just about done. Ohio State and Notre Dame have some more hours to go before they can jump in. Do you feel like LSU is done assembling its pre-spring roster?
I think they're done. There's a couple guys. Notre Dame had a couple starting offensive linemen hit the portal who – Brian Kelly did initially help recruit, but I suspect that LSU won't be in play for those guys. I think they're kind of done for now. They want to wait till that spring window, evaluate what they have. That's another part that we don't talk about too much is you do get to evaluate in spring and decide, oh, gosh, this is actually a bigger hole than we thought, or no, we're short up here, and then determine what you need. Of course, there's going to be exponentially less available in spring, but just like evaluations go down here and there, other places it's going down, and you can find some quality guys in spring. If you remember, Joe Burrow was not on roster for spring ball, and he turned out just fine for LSU, I think.
Jaden Daniels wasn't either, so there's how that goes. The one question I have that's significant in my view is tackle. You've got some guys who were highly recruited, but nobody that's got a bunch of skins on the wall. You go get Josh Thompson from Northwestern, who has played tackle but was a guard this past season. How do you feel about tackle right now?
I think that tackle, now that they've shored up safety so well with Tamarcus Cooley and company, I think that now your right tackle probably becomes your closest thing to a hole. Of course, you've got some guys you feel good about, like Weston Davis. You think he's got potential, no doubt, but you don't have proven, bona fide starting quality guys. And, whenever a guy's not starting or not playing often, you're always looking for signs of life in them that are a little harder to tell because we're not at practice. We're not actually evaluating them. And, you start to see how much of a priority were they to get on the field. And it really seemed like Weston Davis, the way they were shuffling things around, they weren't actively trying to get him in the game. I do feel good about Tyree Adams because that's a guy they were working hard to get in the game and get reps. But just looking, reading the cards from last year, I don't have too much confidence in that right tackle spot. Like the other four guys, I hope DJ Chester can improve his play based on shifting to left guard. Maybe that's a more natural spot for him, but I feel good more so on the other four than I do at right tackle right now.
I mean, how big a deal is tackle, especially when you consider what the identity of this LSU offense figures to be, which is going to be throwing it a good amount?
Oh, it's important. I'll argue that after the struggles we've seen in this offense from a year ago, the guards are probably more important. Center's probably more important because that provides an interior running game. I think that your tackles are important and you got to have pass protection. But we saw last year you had two elite bookend tackles and you couldn't run the ball, right? And because of that, your offense became one-dimensional and predictable. And that's why that offense was so frustrating to watch last year because there certainly were a lot of good pieces. Nussmeier certainly impressed you many times and his numbers would look good, but then you're not winning the game or, and it's just like, why? It's because you couldn't run the ball. So I think they're important. If I had to pick one right now, I want an interior offensive line. I want to be able to run the ball consistently, give you some balance, and open up some things in the passing game.
Well, let's talk about the inability to run the ball. Let's divvy out some reasons why, because these guys were better pass blockers than run blockers, because they weren't developed well by their position coach, because the creativity wasn't there in the run game. What do you see when you watch?
Yeah, injuries at your guard spot, that certainly didn't help at all. Because you just didn't have the depth there. Your offensive tackles were certainly guys built more for pass protection, and they had their whole career built around a guy, Jaden Daniels, where running game was from quarterback, and then all of a sudden you're having to adjust to handing it off to the running back to get any kind of motion in the running game because Nussmeier wasn't going to give you anything. And then your center was really struggling. He was the lowest graded offensive lineman you had. And, anytime your center is struggling so mightily, it sets the tone for the rest of the line because other guys got to help chip in and he makes your calls. And if you're missing those calls, it just kind of sets the whole thing off. So I think that there were a number of problems, but mostly, it starts with just the culture of most of those guys were used to a system with Jaden Daniels where you didn't have to be, hog mollies, ground and pound, to get, pad level down and put some pressure on those knuckles and get forward. It was more of a finesse type situation that they had grown accustomed to.
Quite literally an extension of the offensive line would be the tight end spot. You've got Trey Green, you've got Bauer Sharp and Donovan Green that came in. Then Jay LaFleur is coming up from the high school ranks. Do you think that LSU is better equipped to block from the tight end spot next year?
Well, Bauer Sharp is going to be a good blocker. I don't know if he's as good as Mason Taylor is at run blocking. I think Trey Green is going to be a better receiver than Mason Taylor. I know that might be a little blasphemous to say about LSU's best receiving tight end in school history. It's not exactly a lofty title, I don't necessarily think, but I am going to give that to him. But Trey Green is an elite receiver, but he needs to put on weight to be able to block. And I think when he's in the game, no, you're not going to be improved. I think Bauer Sharp could be decent. I'm not saying I dislike this tight end room at all because it's good and there's a lot of promise to it, but I don't think that these guys are going to be – I think it's going to be a downgrade from last year in terms of run blocking.
Are you a little surprised that Brian Kelly is letting Trey Green run around with a basketball team?
A little bit because, it's how many of those guys do we talk about? Oh, he's going to go play basketball, and then it just doesn't pan out because the scheduling is just so brutal, A little bit, but good on him. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt. Hopefully I'd say this about Trey Green, particularly that he's a guy who needs to put on muscle mass and be able to block maybe 20 lean pounds of muscle. It is a little sad to see. Basketball is a conditioning sport. If you need to trim down, go play basketball. If you need to bulk up, man, you need to get in the weight room. So a little surprising, but you understand for a guy of his caliber, sometimes you have to concede some things. Sometimes you have to be like, yeah, come on in. I'll let you play basketball. And that's probably what that situation is. But if I was the coach, I would prefer him to add 20 pounds and get a body build closer to, say, I don't want to say a big hulking tight end, but maybe Gronkowski type build where he's got some muscle and can block a little bit, because he does need to improve to become a complete tight end.
Chatting with Preston Guy, TigerBait.com. He's our guest each and every Friday. All right, you give Jaden a shot on Sunday?
I do give him a shot. And let me tell you, if he's in New Orleans for the Super Bowl, that's going to be exciting to see. Second LSU Heisman winner to make the Super Bowl in their first full season, where they played the full season. Very exciting stuff. I did not give him a chance against the Lions, so now I'm a believer. Jalen Hurts has a little bit of a tweaked knee, and I know that Philly roster is stacked, but I would take Jaden Daniels over Jalen Hurts any day of the week. So look, man, I'm gonna just believe until they prove me wrong. That's what I'm going with.
I'm excited to watch on Sunday. We'll see. We'll see exactly how it goes. Preston, we appreciate some time. Have a great weekend, man.
All right, Hunt. See you soon, man.
Preston Guy, TigerBait.com. On their YouTube channel, you can find his writing on TigerBait.com as well. He's with us every single Friday. It was interesting to kind of cap here. I hadn't given a lot of thought, quite honestly, to Trey'Dez Green playing basketball because I don't think he's going to help the basketball team all that much this year. I just don't think that's realistic to think. He was with the football team through the 1st of January, and then you got to come back and get acclimated. You hadn't been out there practicing. You got to learn an offense, understand defensive assignments. The game's moving faster than it's ever moved, and there are guys that have been doing this every day, all day for months and years even.
Yeah, but it's not like everything's going really well right now with the team, so maybe...
No, it's not, but it's nothing I don't think he can fix. Unless he can score 20 a night, I don't know that there's anything he can fix. And I bring this up all the time because I think it's a pretty relevant thing to talk about. I talked to Dennis Shaver before I interviewed him for the pregame show back for the home opener, and I asked him if Caden Durham and Jelani Watkins, it wasn't coming to me. If Jelani Watkins and Caden Durham were actually fast enough to run track at LSU where they win national championships, and he said they are, and we'd love to have them, but I understand that at times those guys can get to campus and the football coaches will tell them what to do, and oftentimes that means you can't come run with us because you got to work on something. So that's how those conversations usually go, and I'm just in an offseason that I think is so important for Trey'Dez Green to put on some weight, to understand what he's doing, to learn how to block and all those types of things. I'm surprised, especially since he's supposed to put on weight, that he's over there running basketball where you're just going to be running and running and running and running. It's really hard to put on weight during a basketball season. I heard Will Wade talk about that. The guys generally over the course of a basketball season will lose 5 to 8 pounds, kind of depending on their body size, because it's hard to restock with that many calories when you're burning them at that rate. So again, the more I think about it, honestly, the more I'm a little surprised that Trey'Dez Green's out there. I'll be surprised if and when he helps LSU on the basketball floor this season. I will not be surprised when he catches his first touchdown next football season. So that's kind of where I am on the whole thing. We'll see what the future holds for the very, very talented Trey'Dez Green. So thanks to Preston for coming aboard and giving us a little bit of time. All right, when we come forward, let's talk a little bit about the conference championship games to come on Sunday. Jaden Daniels very much involved. We'll do that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. 3 years, complimentary maintenance. How does that sound? Sounds pretty good. Complimentary is good. 3 years, good. Valet complimentary maintenance, even better. You can have the folks at Genesis of Baton Rouge come pick your car up, bring it to the dealership. They'll handle all your maintenance, drive it right on back to you. You never skip a beat. It's all part of the experience of being a Genesis driver. If you have not gone by the dealership, if you have not sat behind the wheel of a Genesis, just go try it out. Put it on your list. If you've been looking for a car in Baton Rouge, you've probably been on Airline Highway. Just make that one more stop at Genesis of Baton Rouge. It's on Airline and Pico, right across from Women's Hospital, and see the difference. When you think Genesis, think luxury. When you think luxury, don't think, can't afford that. Go see. Start your process online at genesisofbatonrouge.com and finish it right there at the dealership with a brand new Genesis. Every car that's on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
All right, LSU and Alabama in hoops tomorrow. We'll talk about it at the top of hour number 2. Also got an anniversary to get to today, so looking forward to that. But let's talk about the conference championship games coming up on Sunday. We'll start with the one that has some local interest, the 2 o'clock game on Fox. The 6th-seeded Commanders at the number 2 seed Philadelphia Eagles, a division matchup between NFC East rivals. I think everyone's talking about Jalen Hurts, injury. I get it. Like, it's a big deal that Jalen Hurts tweaked his knee last week, didn't run the ball after he tweaked his knee, and that's a big piece to what Philadelphia wants to do. No question, that's a big deal. I do not think it's the biggest injury in this game. I don't think it's even close. Because when you know that Sam Cosmi is out, who is playing right guard for the Commanders, you may recall, if you're an LSU fan, that Cosmi was the tackle for Texas when LSU went to Austin a few years ago. Elite player. Big-time draft pick, and has been a starter for Washington for a couple years now. He's a very, very good interior offensive lineman. He tore his ACL against Detroit. So you've got a newcomer at right guard against Jalen Carter. That is a nightmare because Jalen Carter, to me, is the most disruptive interior defender in the NFL now that Aaron Donald has moved on. And there is no better way to get a quarterback off his game or to disrupt the flow of an offense than to blow up the middle of the line of scrimmage and create a situation where the quarterback's got to move. Like, that's just the best way to do it. We saw the one time Mahomes got to the Super Bowl and lost. It was because of that. We've seen Brady get into trouble in Super Bowls because teams were getting pressure up the middle. We've seen Joe Burrow running for his life with that terrible Bengals offensive line a couple of years ago. Like, if you can't feel comfortable back there with your interior hold, I mean, edge rushers are one thing, and they'll make their plays. But if you can't block the interior, then you've got no shot. So that, to me, Cosme being out is such a huge, huge deal in this game. We know on the other side that the Eagles are going to want to run the ball like crazy. I saw this stat on ESPN's preview up on ESPN.com. Barkley gained 130 yards and 3 touchdowns on 3 of his carries against Washington over 2 games. So 3 of the plays went for a total of 130 yards and 3 touchdowns, big play touchdowns. The 26 other carries that Saquon Barkley had against the Redskins, well, there it was, the Commanders, 2 yards or less. So I'm not sure exactly what to make of that. You're giving up huge plays, but far more of your reps against the run are better than those. 26 good reps, 3 bad reps, just 3 catastrophic reps. That's where Philly is going to try to butter its bread early in this game. We know that. It's going to be Saquon early and often, especially with Jalen Hurts a little bit dinged up. But they've got the ability to go to A.J. Brown, they can go to Devontae Smith, and they've got dudes on the outside as well. I'm concerned with the Washington defense. They were opportunistic against Detroit, and they got 5 turnovers. I find that to be unsustainable. Can they get 2 in this game? I would love that, but it's just harder to count on turnovers. Fumbles, interceptions. It's easier to count on the traditional stuff, stopping the run, rushing the passer, tackling, that type of stuff. So I struggle to get on board with Washington winning this game. Maybe that's me trying to be protective and not try to get overconfident. And maybe that's just because I think Philly's got a much better roster top to bottom than Washington does. Washington wasn't supposed to be here. And Jaden has taken this team on his back and carried them to this point, making every play on 3rd downs, making every play on 4th downs, making every play in the 4th quarter. And Washington's winning a bunch of these games late. Now, that wasn't the case in Detroit. They went up there and kicked their butts, but that's, to me, less about a team completely hitting its stride, more about a team that just forced a bunch of turnovers and had a great quarterback go. Jaden's the hope. Y'all know that. And I have that hope remaining. I would pick the Eagles to win this game. The number is 6. That feels like a lot to me. But they're at home. They got a better roster. I would probably take Philly to cover if I had to. But I understand that it's a lot of points to deal with, especially with a guy that's playing as well as Jaden Daniels on the other side of things. I'm hopeful that Jaden gets it done, but we'll just have to see. Now, on the other side in the AFC, you've got Bills and Chiefs, 2 seed versus the 1 seed in Kansas City. There was a big faction of people that were sick and tired of watching LeBron James and Steph Curry play in the finals over and over and over and over. I was not one of those. I like to watch those guys play. I think it's great. I would rather watch those 2 guys play than some random Jazz team get in there. Just as an example. Like I liked watching 2 of the greatest players who have ever walked compete at the highest level of the sport, and I didn't get sick of it, even though we saw it a lot. And I'm not sick of watching Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid play Josh Allen. Like, I think it's awesome. The Chiefs have kind of transformed who they are, and we understand that. And the Bills have done a great job of a retool. It wasn't even a rebuild. It was more of a retool. And here they are. A lot of people think as good or better than Kansas City. The number would suggest they have a better team than Kansas City because Kansas City is only a 2-point favorite. So at best, it's a pick 'em. At the other side, maybe Buffalo's better. But they've lost 3 straight to Kansas City in the postseason. And Patrick Mahomes has the reputation of just doing what he needs to do to win it. The Chiefs have gone 8 straight games, including the playoffs, without committing a turnover. They have turned this into, from what was the most high-flying offense in the sport, to a ball-controlled defensive team. It's amazing. Amazing to me. And the Bills are not that. The Bills want to go score. They want to make the highlight reel play. They want to go, 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 go. The Bills have been great on third down. They were good on third down against Kansas City back in Week 11. They converted 9 of 15. They ran 71 plays in that game to 52 for the Chiefs, and they held the ball for 34 of the 60 minutes. And that allowed the Bills to play as well as they did in that game. Now they'll have to take it on the road, go to Arrowhead, and figure something out. Now you're talking about the Chiefs with ball control. The Bills play a ball control style. They only committed 8 turnovers this year. That was the fewest in the NFL. Also, 35 takeaways. Regular season and playoff, that's the most in the league. That's one way to retool it and start winning, is to deal with those turnovers. And that's a stat that continues to come back. And I wrestle with turnovers big time when I come on this show. Because while I think that quarterbacks throwing picks can be something you can count on, like that Jameis Winston year where he threw 30 picks, like you can count on him turning the ball over. I don't think anybody was stunned watching the game when LSU played at Texas A&M and Garrett Nussmeier threw it to the wrong team 3 times in the second half. He had done that. But it feels unlikely for a defense to consistently produce turnovers week after week and count on that. The Saints did it for a year, but it's hard to rely on every single week, but it's such a huge story. And that's why I wrestle with it. It's like, do I need to break down turnovers, or like, is it just something that's more often by chance? It's important, but how much can you really count on it? I don't know. But these two teams are really good, and they're big rivals, and I'm excited to watch them go at it on Sunday evening. I think it's going to be a heck of a ball game. I'm once again going to lean on the home team here. I think there are probably a lot of people who are going to go with Washington and go with Buffalo here. A lot of people. I'm going to stick with the home teams. I'm going to stick with the Eagles, who have been great for 4 or 5 years. I'm going to stick with the Chiefs, who have been great for longer than that. That's just kind of how I see it. I would take the home teams and lay the points in both instances. I will, in fact, do that literally with neither instance. Y'all, I think, know that by now, but that's my read on the game, which gives you a perfectly reasonable spot to go ahead and absolutely fade me from the jump and take the 2 road dogs. That's your prerogative, but that's where I am. Beck, you're looking at this. What do you think?
It's hard for me to not go with the Eagles, but if the Hurts injury, I understand where you're coming from with the injury for Cosme, but if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, he's
going to play. It's just a matter of can he run.
That's what I mean. Like he's going to play, but is he actually going to play like he usually does, which he probably won't, because the success in the Eagles is predicated on his ability to run the ball. If he can't run the ball, it's going to be very challenging for them to score. I will say this though: the Commanders' defense hasn't been very inspiring. The last few weeks, even the whole season, really has.
Except for turnovers.
Yeah, they've been pretty mediocre. So
I would counter that with Jalen Hurts. I would say if you got Kenneth Gainwell running the ball, that's a big deal that Hurts is injured. If he's injured and can just turn around and hand it to Saquon Barkley, all of a sudden that feels a little bit better. Your knee tends to feel a little bit better when you can hand it to Saquon Barkley.
That's true, but I just think when you have to account for both the quarterback and the running back in the style of offense like that, and with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, we saw Derrick Henry have an incredible season, and I think part of that is because the teams couldn't just focus solely on him in terms of running the ball. So I would probably still lean on the Eagles, especially at home, and then with the Bills and the Chiefs, I'm going to keep riding the Bills. I mean, I've said this before. I said this before the season started. I still thought the Bills were going to have a really good chance of making the Super Bowl, even though they some people thought they weren't going to be as good with some of the losses they had in the preseason. But I'm going to ride with the Bills. I think Josh Allen will get the Bills over the hump this time. I don't think the Chiefs' offense, if this gets into a shootout, the Chiefs have not proven.
The Chiefs will lose.
They will lose because they have not proven this year that they can score more than 30 points. They literally have not done it all season. So if the Bills can get this thing going and get this thing into a shootout, I like the Bills, and so that's where I'm at right now for those.
All right, I'll take the home teams. We'll see. I will be very, very much pulling for Washington. I think it'd be so cool to have the Super Bowl in New Orleans with Jaden Daniels in the spotlight, trying to do something that, I mean, has a rookie ever won the Super Bowl? I have no idea. I've looked up that stat, and I certainly can't come up with one off the top of my head. Tom Brady wasn't a rookie when Bledsoe got hurt, I don't think. I think
no rookie has ever done it.
Okay, so that was just a top of my head deal. That'd be quite a storyline in the home state with the quarterback who won the Heisman down the street to go to the Super Bowl and get that done. So I'll certainly be pulling for that on Sunday, as well. I think most of Louisiana at this point. So that's a look at the conference championship games. We'll come back with a little anniversary here to close out hour number 1.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
I'm telling you about audio video security solutions. avssla.com is the website. Nothing more important than the safety and security of your home and your family. And for us, audio video security solutions has just been awesome in installing our security system, our burglar alarm, and the cameras. Got the app right there on my phone. I've got crystal clear picture that I can pause, rewind 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't pay any cloud storage fees. I can activate and deactivate the burglar alarm remotely from wherever I am. And then if there's any issue, which there generally isn't unless the 3-year-old gets involved, we can call Mitchell Fisher on his cell phone, and he's come out twice and helped us out by getting things fixed. And it usually takes him about 10 minutes because it's so simple, but we don't know what we're doing. He does. Give him a call. 225-439-7920 is the phone number. That's Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number. He owns the company locally right here in Baton Rouge. They can handle your audio. They can handle your video. And certainly they can handle your security. It's audio video security solutions online at avssla.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile
You're listening to The Hun Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Closing up hour number 1 here, brought to you by Corks Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Check out the menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. Delicious jumbo Gulf shrimp, crispy fried catfish, the shoestring fries, husk puppies, coleslaw, honey butter rolls, beignet bites, crawfish etouffee. It's all there at Corks Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. It is an anniversary. We do some quick math here. That would be 15 years since January the 20th, 2010. And this happened down in the Superdome.
There have been a lot of them. Saints fans don't want to see another. Snap, placement, kick by Hartley, and it is good! It's good! It's good! Pigs have flown. Hell is frozen over. The Saints are on their way to the Super Bowl.
I'll tell you what, Garrett Hartley, I mean, you could kind of tell by his body language out there on the field that he felt like, I think I've got this thing done. Now you're going to Miami.
Good call. I don't know. I mean, it's a great call, first of all. I didn't even mean to slide it. That's a great call by Jim Henderson. I don't know that I can recall hearing that inflection in a play-by-play man's voice. Jim Henderson is one of the greatest play-by-play men in football history. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to him my entire childhood, even if my car was pulling for the other team. That's my dad, who despises the Saints with every fiber of his being. But as I got into radio and understanding and appreciating the journalism side of things, I just always loved listening to Jim Henderson call a game. And I can't recall ever hearing relief like that in somebody's voice for such an amazing moment. More often than not, you hear the passion, and you may hear some folks yelling and screaming in the back of the booth that are on stats or on color or off mic. And this was just like, I just can't believe it. And I've never asked Jim Henderson this. I've never spoken to Jim Henderson. And I've never read an interview about when he said that. But I can't imagine that was something he scripted or planned. I think that's just the natural emotion of a play-by-play and a man who's called that team for decades, that had seen so much ineptitude, that was finally seeing greatness and maybe never thought that day would ever come. And then it did. And we could talk about that game for days, and we could talk about the stories of where you were or where we were and the emotion in the city of New Orleans when that happened. But I think for me, one of the indelible things is Jim Henderson's radio call of Garrett Hartley's kick that beat the Vikings and sent the Saints to the Super Bowl, which we know now they would ultimately win. I've told this story on the air a couple of times. I'll make it brief this time. That weekend, of course, that was on a Sunday. That weekend, my parents had hosted a little party for a family friend that was getting engaged. And there were probably 30 beers left over or whatever. And I was in college. And so I was up in Shreveport for that, and they sent us down with the ice chest, with all the extra beers. My mom's like, no one here's going to drink that. Just take it back to college. It's like, okay. So we drove it down I-49 and showed up and had a fun watch party for the NFC Championship game. And I famously was not in the room when the kick went through. I thought I could go to the bathroom and get back, and I didn't. So my friends started screaming and yelling in the room. And at that point, and even still, I wasn't truly invested in whether the Saints won or lost at that point. In fact, I was probably kind of pulling against them because of my roots. That is long gone at this point, and I do want them to win at this point. I missed the kick, but that's one of the great days in South Louisiana at sports history. Beck, you were just a young pup at that point. What do you remember about that?
Man, I distinctly remember watching the Super Bowl. I was at my parents' old house. My whole family, a lot of my family were there watching it, and I remember after we won, I had just started becoming a drummer and playing in the middle school band, I think. And
Excellent.
I had this idea that I was going to create this makeshift strap with my snare drum and walk down the street playing the snare drum or something because we won the Super Bowl. I don't remember. I remember the NFC Championship game. I remember watching it. I remember Brett Favre throwing some interceptions.
He threw
specifically
a crucial
very
interception
crucial one at the end of the game to pretty much give the Saints the win there. But yeah, that's I definitely remember the Super Bowl more so, but I do remember watching that NFC Championship game.
It was a special moment there in New Orleans. It's Garrett Hartley. Pigs flew, and the Saints went to the Super Bowl. They would win it just 2 weeks later down in Miami. So an anniversary, I guess 15 years since Pigs flew. That would have been January 24th of 2010. All right, that's it for hour number one. If you missed any of hour number one, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can find us, my baseball thoughts to lead off the show today. Talking about LSU's pitching staff, what we heard from Jay Johnson at Media Day today. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, talking football, specifically the LSU offensive line. We preview the NFL's conference title games as well, so go back and find all that wherever you find your sound. The Saints may be getting closer to hiring a coach, but they don't have to hurry. I'll talk about that in hour number two, and we'll get a preview for the LSU and Alabama game from Tuscaloosa tomorrow. Come back. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
I'm telling you about Highland Insurance Group. HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carbo and his team are fantastic to work with. I told you last week I got a chance to sit down with them and really start to talk some insurance, talk shop with them, which I realize is not the most fun thing in the world for a lot of y'all, but I've been out of the game for a couple of years, so I just kind of wanted to get a sense for how it is that they won business and how they kept business at the Highland Insurance Group, and it's because of their expertise. A lot of folks, when they pick their insurance provider, just care about the price. And that's one way to do it, but it's not the only way to do it. And I can promise you that when something bad happens, you're going to hope that you have done it the proper way by evaluating your policies. Let the Highland Insurance Group do a free audit of your policies. They'll let you know if there are some fixes that can be made, both on coverage and in terms of premium. And if that's the case, you're going to switch over and you're going to stay at the Highland Insurance Group for a very, very long time. Give them a call or check them out online today. It's HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group online at HighlandIG.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family,
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports Pete Carroll will be the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders.
That will make him the oldest head coach in NFL history next season. He'll be 74. He acts like he's 34 and has the energy of a 34-year-old.
Adam Schefter. Carroll gets a 3-year deal. He's one of only 4 coaches to win a national championship and a Super Bowl. ESPN's Jenna Lane reports Liam Cohen is the new head coach of the Jaguars. He had been the Buccaneers' offensive coordinator. Bills safety Taylor Rapp is out for Sunday's AFC title game against the Chiefs. Rapp has back and hip injuries. South Carolina football coach Shane Beamer gets a new contract that runs through the 2030 season. The Gamecocks went 9-4 this year, earning Beamer the SEC Coach of the Year in his 4th year in Columbia. American Madison Keys plays top seed Arena Sabalenka for the Australian Open women's title. Coverage starts at 3 a.m. Eastern on ESPN.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Kennedy. Coming up Monday, we've got conference championship games and the coaching carousel, and I'll react to it all in my Upon Further Review at 7 a.m. Eastern. It's Unsportsmanlike weekday mornings at 6, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're presented by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Fired up, you're hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Saints, I think, can take their time hiring a head coach. I'll tell you why in 15 minutes. We got Take It or Leave It coming as well. But we start hour number 2 with LSU and Alabama on the hardwood tomorrow in Coleman Coliseum. LSU goes to Coleman Coliseum a lot. LSU loses in Coleman Coliseum almost every time. I'll look it up here. LSU has lost 964 straight games in Coleman Coliseum. That's probably not true, but it's a lot. And this one doesn't look great on paper, quite frankly. Alabama, under Nate Oates, has become kind of a machine, especially offensively. This is a team that is 16-3 on the year, 5-1 in league play. Their 3 losses thus far. They lost at Purdue, 87-78. Purdue's number 11 in the country currently. They lost against Oregon in Vegas. They lost that game 83-81. Oregon's currently number 15 in the country. And they lost to Ole Miss in Coleman Coliseum just a couple of weeks ago. The Rebels are 16th in the country, held Alabama to 64 points in a 74-64 win there in Tuscaloosa. Alabama offensively is just a force. They have scored 100 points 6 times. For reference, that's the second most in the last 75 years in college basketball. Over 106 times. They've scored 90-plus in 10 of their 19 games. So half the time, they are busting 90. They have scored less than 80 points just 3 times. That was in losses to Ole Miss and Purdue, and they actually scored under 80 against McNeese. Do with that what you will. So for perspective, Alabama's been held under 83 times, and LSU is averaging 67.8 points per game in league games. That does not bode well. So Alabama offensively, just some statistics. They play faster than anyone in college basketball. They're number 1 in the nation in possessions per game, and because of that, they're number 1 in the nation in points per game. They're 15th in the country in offensive efficiency. They just get so many shots. It's hard to be completely efficient when you're doing that. Y'all probably know at this point. If you don't, you just don't really like basketball, which is completely fine, but this has been pretty obvious, so those that watch relatively closely will know this. But Nate Oates has an offensive philosophy that he's spelled out very candidly. It's not a secret. It's just what they're going to do. They're going to try to get a shot up in the first 12 seconds of the shot clock, and they'd like it to be a 3. But one way or another, they're only going to shoot from 3 places the entire night. 3 places and 3 places only. They will shoot 3-pointers. They will shoot layups and dunks. They will shoot free throws. That's it. You will not see Alabama shoot a mid-range jumper unless a loose ball shows up and they've got to get it up before the shot clock and they throw it up as the horn goes off. But in the course of their offense, they only shoot 3s, free throws, layups, and dunks. That's it. And it's been wildly effective. They're 5th in the country in 3-point attempts per game. They're 21st in the country in 3s made per game. They are 57th in the country in terms of the percentage of their points they get from free throws. And if you're thinking they're going to shoot a lot of 2s, they don't. They're 308th in the country in the percentage of the points they get from 2. More often than not, they hoist up a 3 or they get fouled. And what this does is it does create some instances where they miss 6, 7, 8 shots in a row. But those 6, 7, 8 misses in a row don't equate to a lot of game time. And the other side of this coin, so they never do. They never go 6 minutes without a made field goal. If they miss 6 shots in a row, those come in a minute 45. It's just boom, 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 boom. But what it also does is it creates a flurry. And they'll make 3 of 4 threes over the course of a minute and 10 seconds, and that's a lot of points to have to deal with. And the Avalanche largely breaks through when they get going. They will turn the ball over. They are 253rd in the country in turnovers per game, and they're 113th in the country in turnovers per possession. So they will get going more quickly than they need to, but not all that often. And so the guy that makes this all go is Mark Sears. He is the active D1 points leader running the point for Alabama. He started his career at Ohio. Incidentally, they played here against Will Wade when he was at Ohio. He's got 62 20-point games. That is the most among active players. He leads the SEC in assists per SEC game, and he's second in points per SEC game. He's the guy that pilots this entire ship. He's left-handed. He makes a lot of shots. He gets to the rim. He feeds other players. He makes 3s. He's the conductor of this whole engine for Nate Oates and Alabama, and he's the guy that LSU needs to try to slow down on Saturday evening. The other 2 guys that do a lot of scoring for Alabama are Grant Nelson, who is shooting 70% on 2s this year. A lot of dunks and layups for Grant Nelson. He'll also step back and hit some 3s. And then Aiden Holloway is a sharpshooter from 3 for them. He's shooting 42% from deep for the Tide. They will run a lot of guys at you. They just score a ton of points. Here's the deal. I don't have a way to sit here and blow smoke. LSU's offense has been pretty feeble in league play outside of Cam Carter cooking for a half against Arkansas. And if Cam Carter, at the pace this game is played, scores 31, 35 points, and Jordan Sears makes 6 threes, I think LSU can stay in it, assuming Alabama shoots it poorly. But the likely outcome here is that LSU can't keep up, 1, with the pace, and 2, with the scoring that Alabama continues to dump on you, and this thing gets away from LSU in the second half. It's pretty easy to see Bama scoring 100 points in this game. I don't know a way to break this down outside of, Bama just can't shoot today. Because I don't think LSU can do what Purdue and Ole Miss did to Alabama. Purdue is one of the best programs in college basketball the last 5 years, and Ole Miss has one of the best defensive coaches in the country who has now turned 3 different Power 5 programs into really good defensive teams over the last 5 years. So it's just not likely LSU can replicate that, and it's just not likely that LSU, who's scoring less than 70 a game in league play, is going to stop a team that scores 90 more often than they don't. I'll say this when I'm talking about Alabama basketball. It is impressive to me that Nate Oates can walk onto a campus when he got there that had Nick Saban, who has absolutely derailed LSU football season after LSU football season after leaving LSU, It can also have a softball coach that came to LSU and quit after 24 hours to go back to Alabama, and has a baseball coach that got caught up in an illegal gambling scandal, and Nate Oates is the least likable coach on that campus. Saban, guy who quit on LSU after 2 days, and then a gambling cheater. Those are the three other options, and I dislike Oates the most. That's impressive to get there and make that kind of impression right out of the chute. And Nate Oates was able to do that with me. It goes a long way when you're at the SEC tournament and you yell at my coach to get the blank out of here. And then just his general demeanor on the sideline and in press conferences, not a big Nate Oates guy. Doesn't hurt that he's got the Alabama, well, he doesn't ever wear Alabama gear. He wears the Blazers with plaid all over him. But he's an Alabama coach. They win a lot, and I don't love him. So I'm not going to look forward to watching him on the other sideline on Saturday night. And I hope that LSU springs the upset of the season so far in college basketball, which is basically what this would amount to. I just don't see a reasonable path to get there for LSU. They just don't have enough offensive punch to stick with the best offense in college basketball. And Alabama, quite frankly, doesn't even have to play great defense in this game. They just have to do what they usually do on offense, which is score 90, and it just doesn't feel like LSU is going to be able to keep up. So I realize that's not the sunshine and roses perspective on this Friday, and we're looking forward to a warm weekend after a freezing cold week, and you're kind of in a good mood after a short work week here. But I do have to break down the LSU basketball game, and it is being played tomorrow, so we'll leave it at that. LSU and Alabama, 7:30 tip tomorrow from Coleman Coliseum. Incidentally, I'll be at LeVert's Baton Rouge watching that one tomorrow night, so if you want to come out to ESPN Bet and see me, please do. We'll be hanging out and enjoying some cold pops and some awesome food over there at ESPN Bet. That's LSU basketball on the men's side in the rearview mirror. When we come back, there's some breaking news over the last 2 hours in the world of the NFL coaching carousel. How does that impact the Saints, and why I think it's a real big positive for New Orleans. We'll do that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. You gotta love Genesis of Baton Rouge. I love my time over there. If you haven't been by the dealership, go see it. When you go in, I've been in a lot of car dealerships in my day because I worked on that side of the insurance deal for a number of years. You see a lot of dirty, sterile showrooms. This is an incredible experience. It feels like you're in a 4-star hotel. They've got the rock waterfowl over there. They've got an incredibly comfortable area where you can get some work done if you need to near the service aisle. Got a big old coffee machine that's first class, can make the coffee any way that you possibly want it. They got snacks there as well, and their staff is incredibly welcoming. You're going to feel like a guest there and not a customer. That's just part of the experience of being a Genesis driver. When you think Genesis, think luxury. When you think luxury, don't think, I can't afford that. You certainly may be able to. Just get on by and see them. They're at Airline near Pico, across from Women's Hospital. You can start your process at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Every car that's on the lot there at Genesis of Baton Rouge is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. That's my friends over at Genesis of Baton Rouge.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
All right, the NFL coaching vacancy is starting to dwindle down. And we talked right at the outset of this coaching cycle that, okay, where do the Saints stack up? Chicago's already open. New York's already open. We feel like the Bears, with all their salary cap space and Caleb Williams being there, that's probably a better spot than the New Orleans. And the Jets, they maybe won't move on from Aaron Rodgers, but the rosters and ownership's not great, but it's in New York, it's probably a better spot there. Okay, well, Jacksonville comes open. They got Trevor Lawrence, a lot of cap room, but their owner's saying a lot of weird things. Nobody likes the GM. What's the deal out in Vegas? Is that going to come open? And well, what's Jerry Jones going to do with Mike McCarthy? And you're kind of weighing all these things, and you understand that the Saints had an old roster, not a lot of talent, $50+ million over the salary cap, quarterback entering what could be the last year he's in New Orleans. You got continuity in the executive team with the general manager and all of his surrounding cast of characters. Ownership's generally solid, spends money, stays out of the way. But where do the Saints rank? And you're kind of looking towards the bottom, quite frankly, even though there are warts everywhere with teams that are looking for a new coach. But now you look up, okay, well, you never really thought the Saints were going to get Ben Johnson, and they didn't. He went to Chicago. And the Saints very much were interested in Aaron Glenn. There's no doubt about that. But it was evident pretty early, at least according to Ross Jackson from Locked On Saints and LouisianaSports.net, that Glenn likely preferred the Jets job. So, yes, you do that interview. You make sure that you touch your base there, and you try to make your case, but you understand that may not work out. And then you start to look at the other names that the Saints have interviewed, and they'll talk to Mike McCarthy, and you look at Anthony Weaver, and look at Kafka up there with the Giants, and you're thinking, okay, that's kind of the pool that we're looking at here. Maybe Cliff Kingsbury, if he changes his tune, we'll see. Joe Brady for sure. And you're thinking, okay, well, are the Saints kind of fighting for any of these other spots? And it turns out that whatever happened in Jacksonville, between Jacksonville and Tampa, Liam Cohen's going to go be the head coach of the Jaguars. And he was never really mentioned for the Saints. And if the Jaguars were looking for a young offensive mind, certainly Joe Brady and Liam Cohen would be the spots after Ben Johnson has been taken, and they didn't hire Joe Brady. And then you look out at Vegas, and you thought they were looking at more established names, perhaps Robert Saleh, perhaps Vance Joseph, and it turns out they just hired Pete Carroll. 73-year-old Pete Carroll, who the Saints, as we understand it, had no interest in. So now you're looking around and you're looking at Dallas, who is apparently going to hire Brian Schottenheimer, and that's been the word for the last 48 hours. And the Saints are kind of sitting here going, okay, y'all may have picked first, but I don't know that anybody that was realistically on the Saints' radar outside of Aaron Glenn has been hired, and you're now sitting here going, well, we've got our pick. So there's no rush. There's no hurry. It's not like college football where you got to get somebody in there to get recruiting and fill out the staff so they can go recruit and make sure you work the transfer portal. No, you've got a scouting department that can handle the Senior Bowl and can handle the draft and can continue to do those types of things. You've got a salary cap department that can continue to work towards restructuring contracts. Certainly, I think, in my opinion at least, I would like the head coach's input on some of that. But maybe Mickey Loomis and Kai Harley and that whole group, they're going to do their salary cap gymnastics the way they're going to do it anyway. So really, all you're doing is waiting. And you can talk to Mike McCarthy whenever you want. Starting on Monday, you can talk to Joe Brady whenever you want. You can talk on Monday to Cliff Kingsbury whenever you want. Anthony Weaver, Mike Kafka are guys you can talk to whenever you want. Time is no longer of the essence. Every single time you get into a coaching search, whether it's for a coordinator or a head coach, you always have to assess the rest of the hiring pool and understand where you may need to be aggressive, where you need to be assertive, and make sure that you get your guy. It's likely to me that the Jets knew that it was possible that Aaron Glenn was going to get on a plane and go to New Orleans. You have to stop that. That is like college recruiting. There's a time where you say, you're committing to us, you're not getting on that visit going somewhere else. And if the Jets decided Aaron Glenn is our guy, you've got to make sure you understand what his other options could be and that you don't allow him to explore those. They didn't. He may have left the facility after the interview, but he didn't get on a plane and fly to New Orleans. Really couldn't because there was snow everywhere, but point remains. So now the Saints are in an advantageous spot. You're not under the proverbial gun as far as we need to make this decision very, very quickly. You just need to do what's right. And I think it's probably a good thing the Saints are not under the gun because I feel like that could lead to some hasty decisions that may not be in the best interest of the organization. I've told you this many times. I can get on board with Joe Brady. I can get on board with Mike McCarthy. I can get on board with Anthony Weaver. I'm having a little bit tougher time with Mike Kafka. And I could probably get on board with Cliff Kingsbury. There are a lot of positives that go into all those different candidates. But now the beauty is you don't have to race. So there's no excuse. You've got the ability to survey the board and make it happen. And if you're a Saints fan, your confidence level may be reasonably high, it may be 0, and neither one of those would be unfounded. There have been some significant issues, and also the Saints have done some great things. It's been a while. Mickey Loomis was in charge when they got this right, too. So you're now the belle of the ball because you're the only job left, and that was one of Mickey Loomis's talking points in the press conference. It's one of the 32 jobs, so somebody's got to take it. Now it's the only one. It's one of one job, assuming Dallas goes the way we think it is. So now they really have to take it. So I don't know if that's the best way to approach it, but it doesn't make it any less true. If any of these guys wants to be an NFL head coach in 2025, come on down to the French Quarter because that's where you got to be. So it's a break for the Saints. You never know. You can't forecast this stuff, but it's a break for the Saints, and now they make their move. I told you on Monday, if the Saints hire a coach this week, I think it's Aaron Glenn. If they don't hire a coach this week, I think it's Joe Brady. I still feel that way. I would not in any way rule out Anthony Weaver. I would not in any way rule out Mike McCarthy. I don't think Kingsbury's likely. I don't think Kafka's likely. I think that's a guy the Saints have had interest in for some time. I don't think they're going to make him the head coach. That's a tough sell. So, and again, I don't think it's Darren Rizzi. That's very clear. So I think that we're probably, as I sit here on Friday, I think we're probably Tuesday before that announcement's made. I think it's likely, in my opinion, that the Saints know what their top choice is. And I think they make that clear in an interview next Monday or Tuesday, and I think that gets done. If you've seen how quickly this stuff gets done, like the Jaguars got rid of Balky, boom, they hire out in the cold Liam Cohen, who the Bucs were trying to get on the phone. This happened pretty quickly with Pete Carroll today. Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn were hired less than 72 hours after their team finished their season. So I think we're right there on the edge of this when the games go final on Sunday. And I think there's a decent chance that the Saints have talked to Joe Brady's agent, Mike McCarthy's agent, whoever, and have kind of made that clear, like, now that the dust is settled, you don't really have to play games anymore. I feel like there's a pretty good chance that some significant groundwork can be laid before an interview's done. Now, there's a chance, as I say all that the Saints really haven't made their mind up. And while I probably would have said 3 days ago, what are you doing? Go! You don't have to do that anymore. They don't have to know. They can take their time. Again, that may inspire a lot of confidence in you, Saints fan. It may inspire none. But it just is the situation. I think there's optimism that they can get this thing right. Then you've got to go through a sizable rebuild. If you'd like to see how that salary cap situation shakes out, Ross Jackson's got a great piece on LouisianaSports.net that talks about it. But you can start that process with what is a vital hire to this organization and then a big-time free agency and draft period coming in this offseason, and then an even bigger one likely next year. But this is where it's got to start, and I feel like the Saints are in a pretty advantageous situation as we sit here today. Our show is brought to you by One Bath & Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is that website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years of redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, closet space is not something that some people think about. I certainly didn't think about it a ton in my previous house. And then my wife-to-be moved in, and she hated it. So we had to make a decision whether to redo the closet situation in our current home or to move when we decided we wanted more space. Thought that there would be an addition to our family coming, which there now is. So we gotta create some more space, and let's look at a place that's got some better closet situation. So instead of calling David Duvall, we moved. You don't have to move. You can call David Duvall and start that process with a free consultation. He can customize a closet to your specifications. It will be functional for you, and it will be aesthetically gorgeous. Look at the pictures on the website, onebathandclosets.com. David Duvall and his team do fantastic work. They'll do right the first time and leave the competition behind. It's David Duvall and One Bath & Closets. You can find them at onebathandclosets.com. We're rocking and rolling here on a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. LSU women's basketball coming up with a huge game in, I guess, an hour and a half from right now out in Columbia, South Carolina. We'll briefly talk about that. We've still got some more to do over the last half hour of this wild week with a holiday and snow days and all that. We're bringing things to a close, and so we'll do all that over the next 30 minutes right here on a Friday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com is the website. Also invite you to check them out on Instagram. It's at AVSS_BR. Keep in mind, they were the People's Choice Award for the best vendor at the Parade of Homes last year, showcasing some of the amazing stuff that they're able to do over there at Audio Video Security Solutions. I didn't really know what their capabilities were, but Mitchell Fisher came over to the house when we were moving in and said, here's some of the things that we'd like to look at for y'all, and we were just thrilled with what they were able to do. They've got an incredible sound system put into our kitchen, living room, and out there on the back patio, and we use it almost every single day. When I'm cooking, which I will be doing here in a few hours, you can bet that I'm either going to have a podcast or our station or some tunes on, and we do that with the touch of a button on my cell phone here, which I didn't even know we could do. We can, because the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions, and if they can make it easy enough for me, I promise they can make it easy enough for you, and you'll be thrilled with the customer service after the sale. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. Find them online at avssla.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756.
You're listening to The Hun Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
All right, LSU and South Carolina are going to play in a big-time women's basketball game, a pair of top 5 teams coming up in an hour and a half. And LSU's 20-0. South Carolina is, I believe, 18-1 on the season. This game got moved back a day, but game day is still there, and it'll be an incredible environment there in Columbia today. I got to say this. Kim Mulkey does something that I don't think I've ever seen a coach do. I've covered coaches that have won at the highest level like Kim Mulkey has. I've covered Les Miles. I've covered Paul Maneri. I've covered Jay Johnson. I have spoken at length to Beth Torina, who has played in the Women's College World Series. I've heard hundreds of Nick Saban press conferences, Bill Belichick press conferences. And I've never heard a coach do what she did on our morning show last week. And it's not the first time I've heard her do it. She said with Jacob and T-Bob last week, we're not supposed to go to South Carolina and win. And that, to me, while it may be true, Vegas says you're a 2-touchdown underdog in this game, okay? So that may be true. It's her fourth season. It's her 4th season, and she's won a national championship. And she's saying, well, we're not supposed to go there and win. And I don't know that I have a super hot take about that because candidly, a regular season college basketball game on the men's or women's side, even an NBA game on the men's or women's side, doesn't ultimately mean that much. So a football game, you can't really say that. Football game can mean everything. A basketball game at the college level in late January, you can recover from that one pretty quick. But I just have never heard a coach approach things like that. She said that about the team that won the national championship. We're not supposed to be in the Final Four. We're not supposed to be this and that. And she said it last year too. And while I sit there and wonder about that comment, I also watch her coach so hard and demand so much from her players. Last year, I don't know what happened, but 2 starters from the national championship team got suspended from the team, And we didn't really know much about it, and one of them never came back, and the other one, Angel Reese, missed time. And I mean, that's some discipline. That's some coaching. And then to kind of flip and come on here and go, not really supposed to win. It's interesting to me. I don't think it matters, but it's interesting. Now, this game, I could paint you the picture that LSU and South Carolina in this game, it's a big, big deal. Big rivals, national champs the last 3 seasons. Last 2 seasons, I should say. National champs the last 2 seasons. Coaches that are celebrities in the sport, Hall of Famers, may not like each other all that much. LSU's going on the road, 2 teams that are a combined 38-1, like all that stuff. And I could try to sell you that, the winner of this is likely to get a 1 seed, so you won't have to deal with UCLA or USC. You may not have to deal with UConn on your side, but all that's really, it's projecting. Like, you don't know what's going to go on over the next month before we get to time to pick the bracket. So to me, and this may be right or wrong, this is a fun game to pay attention to. Is it crucial? I would suggest not. South Carolina drops the second game. Not that big a deal. LSU loses their first game. They're 20-1 with a loss on the road to South Carolina. Not that big a deal. It's just a good opportunity to be competitive and see where you stand. And that, to me, is an exciting thing. Y'all know how I feel about college football with a 2-team playoff and how I feel about college baseball. I like the fact that you're able to learn from a setback here or there, and you don't have to be at your best all the time. And even if you do lose a game or do not play well for a couple of weeks, you can turn it around and get where you need to go. Today, while it is fun to compete, I think it's just a measuring stick game. If LSU goes to Columbia, South Carolina, and wins the game, okay, they can beat anybody in the country. I know that South Carolina doesn't have Asia Wilson. I know that Camila Cardozo's with Angel Reese in Chicago. Like, I know they're not the stars that we've seen the last few years are not necessarily on this team, but you know how good they are because you know what that program is. If you go there and win, you can beat anybody. If you go there and lose by 26, well, you might be a bit of a, to use a pun, paper tiger based on what you've done through 20 games. You go there and lose by 8, okay, I think you're probably right where you need to be. Just keep working. It's a good measuring stick game, and I think that's kind of what I'll take it as. I don't know. It sounds like that's what Kim Mulkey's taking it as, if she's going to get on here and say, well, I'm not supposed to win. I don't think Dawn Staley will be saying the same thing. Probably not supposed to beat LSU. And I'm certain that the crowd inside what was Colonial Life may still be Colonial Life. I don't know. Whatever it is on South Carolina's campus. And it's probably not even on campus because the football stadium is not on campus. I don't know that either. But in any event, the fans that are there in Garnet and Black are not going to think, we probably shouldn't beat LSU. They're going to be fired up, and it's going to be a great environment. So LSU, with their explosive backcourt, with their explosive offense, with a front court that's trying to get up to speed outside of Morrow, we'll see what these gals can do in what's the toughest environment to play in right now in the sport. I'm curious to see how it all shakes out, and I guess we'll get a good measuring stick or barometer as to where this is. Beck, you've listened to to Kim Mulkey talk over the years. Like, why do you think she's saying, well, we're not even supposed to go win the game?
I think sometimes Kim knows, or at least expects, that her players are going to know or see what she says in these press conferences or these interviews, and it's just maybe a way to motivate her players. I mean, it's kind of like that the route of saying, okay, I'm gonna say, oh, we're not gonna win this game, or we're not expected to win this game. Maybe she's doing that. I mean, I can't see another reason why she would be doing that other than to try to motivate her players and say, look, I mean, this is what people think. We're not supposed to expect to go in and win this game. Maybe that's the tactic she's taken. But I mean, she has always had that just edge to her in press conferences. You just never know what she's going to say.
I'm reminded of a couple of coaches that I've heard stories about. Skip Bertman, you've heard, will throw a guy out there and he's getting crushed on a Tuesday or something. It's a different era of baseball, but like, just, we'll wear this one. Like, who cares? Like, it is what it is. You've heard that stories. I can't point to any specific game, but I've heard Ronnie Rance and Patrick Coogan and Doug Thompson and some of those guys talk about things that went on in the mid to late 90s there. And then I think about like Chuck Daly with the Dream Team, who like apparently like rigged that college game against them, so they got beat. So they would take. Like, I don't know how you do that, but like so that the guys would take it a little bit more seriously. Like that's all I can think of in terms of these types of motivational tactics. I'm fascinated by it, and I won't get to go and see what the pregame talk looks like. I don't know what her communication is like with Bob Starkey and that staff. I don't know how she'll handle substitutions differently or not. Maybe it has no impact on the game at all, but it certainly struck me. And like, I'm not going to completely lie to her. I have not watched the South Carolina women's basketball team dribble one basketball this year, not one. I'm well aware that Asia Wilson was very good in her time. I know Dawn Staley's always got awesome teams. I mentioned Camila Cardosa, who I remember from last year's dust-up in the SC tournament and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm aware of the rivalry. I don't know what they got this year because I don't watch them play on Sundays. So it is what it is. But I am a little bit fascinated to see what the scoreboard reads here and see kind of where LSU measures up. My contention has been, based on what I know about this LSU women's basketball team, that they're probably one big short of being a real threat. But they could prove me wrong today, I think, if they can go out there and win.
Yeah. The South Carolina, I haven't watched a lot of them this year either, but they are a really balanced team this year. They've got, I think, 4 or 5 players that average somewhere around 10 points. So they're not going to rely on just a few players. LSU is going to rely pretty heavily on 3 players, obviously Flau'jae Johnson, Anissa Morrow, Michaela Williams, for their scoring. So if LSU can control the boards, which is always really important in the women's game, then they have a chance. I will say that I agree with you though on the front of but South Carolina doesn't really have a Cardoso this year, so that's going to be something that is going to be a problem for South Carolina if they can try to control the paint, which they're going to be able to do as much as they could last year. So
I'll tell you this: me and Dawn Staley are at odds this weekend because 1, she has her team playing against my alma mater in basketball, and 2, she's a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I'm on the Commanders. So me and Dawn Staley, not friendly acquaintances this weekend. We'll see what happens on Monday.
She might be wearing multiple times she's worn an Eagles jersey on the sideline.
I'm pro that. Look,
she'll probably be doing that honestly today.
Trust me, Kim will have something on. Yeah. So Dawn wants to counter that with some Eagles gear. I'm all for it. I just hope both her teams lose this weekend. That's our look at LSU women's basketball against South Carolina coming up an hour and 18 minutes from right now. You can certainly hear Patrick Wright and company on the call coming up over on Talk 107.3. We'll come back and close things out for this week. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carver and his team are fantastic to work with. I told you the story of one of the instances that they told me about where they were able to help a new client out with their commercial policy. They had 5 different properties that were insured under one umbrella for $1 million of general liability insurance. They rewrote the policy to give each of the 5 locations $1 million, so $5 million in coverage, and the premium did not change. That's a big deal. Big deal, especially if you have an incident that happens that cuts in to that annual limit. That's the kind of thing that they're going to do for you that if you're a business owner, you may not know about. You may just give the specs over and say, hey, what's the premium going to be? And if that's the case, you may end up with an issue on your hands over the course of the next policy period. Trust the experts at the Highland Insurance Group to dive into your policy and make sure that everything reads the right way and that it reads the best way for your business. It's a new year. It's a new opportunity for you to get into that insurance policy and make sure that it performs properly for your business. Contact Jonathan Carbo and his team at the Highland Insurance Group. They're online at HighlandIG.com. That's HighlandIG.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Got chores that need some extra muscle, but a large piece of equipment is overkill? That's what John Deere compact utility tractors were made for. Powerful enough for the work you need to do. Compact enough for how you need to do it. Find the equipment that's right for you at Sunshine Quality Solutions. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
I'm a little bit bummed, just a little bit, just a smidge. Got a text that Cade Anderson has already pitched out at the scrimmage today. He threw 2 great innings, struck out the side in the first inning against the starters. Anthony Ianson has already pitched, and Connor Ware is currently pitching, and I'm still on the radio. So I would not be able to see any of those 3 guys today. The option was for me to go to the scrimmage today or to go on Sunday. Looks like I'm probably going to go on Sunday and see what I can see there.
All right. I mean, that's okay. You got plenty of time to see these guys hunt before the season starts. You'll be all right.
I need more baseball.
It's coming, Hunt.
I need more baseball. I can't. I mean, the Saints aren't playing games. LSU's portal season's done. I got to be real honest with you. I'm not super optimistic about tomorrow evening at 7:30. That doesn't feel great.
Is there a line for that game yet, or
it'll be tomorrow?
I mean,
let's throw a guess out there. We'll.
I'm gonna say 11.
Oh, that's not near enough.
Really? I know it's in Coleman, but it's
gotta be 16.
Really?
I mean, what do you think the score is going to be?
Okay, I don't disagree with you, but I mean, a conference game.
No, but I'm asking, what do you think? What would you project the score to be?
Probably like 92 to 70, maybe.
I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 97-70.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 27 points.
Okay, I don't. Okay. I don't know why, Hunt, but I feel like LSU is going to acquit themselves better in this game. I don't know why I feel that way, but I
think LSU on the right night can absolutely play with Ole Miss. I think LSU could potentially play with like Florida at home. This is the worst matchup in the league because LSU can't score and Alabama just scores all the time. So I honestly, I give them a chance on some given nights. I gave them a chance to go to College Station and win,
and they had a
top 15 team, and they were tied at halftime or whatever. This is a nightmare. Like this, they're a freight train, and there just aren't that many teams that can play with them. And I just don't think that LSU is at this point. So that's kind of where I am on that. So do we think the Saints hire a coach this weekend?
No,
I don't.
It doesn't seem like it. I mean, they're now like we've talked about it. Now that now that the bigger fish, I guess you could say, have already landed in places, now it's just about the Saints have, like we've said again, that they have their choices on who they want, who their options are. So now it's just going to be about narrowing it down.
You a Brady or McCarthy guy or Weaver?
For some reason, I just feel I don't know why, but like I almost everybody is on the thought process of, all right, let's get in a young coach, offensive-minded coach that is going to change the culture. I don't know if Joe Brady. I just feel like I don't think, in my opinion, I don't know that he's ready for this challenge. He might be. He very well could be. I mean, I don't think many people probably thought Sean Payton was ready for the challenge when he joined the Saints. So I'm on the side of getting a guy like Mike McCarthy, who's been there before, and has built a culture before. But I can see both sides.
I don't know. I think it's going to be Brady. We'll see. You got to take it or leave it?
It doesn't look like it, actually.
No. We got 4 minutes to go the rest of the way. By the way, we just did start talking about baseball there. We also opened the show talking about baseball. If you've got the baseball itch and you were not able to listen to Jay Johnson today at Media Day, I've got a story up at LouisianaSports.net. It's on the top of the home page that kind of details his trip through the lineup and through the depth chart and that kind of stuff. I will get into far greater detail both on this show and on LouisianaSports.net over the next 3 weeks talking about this team, but it was kind of a surface-level intro. So if you're not somebody when LSU's playing football games against Oklahoma and Florida and Alabama that wants to hear about fall baseball, I get that. That's a reasonable take. But there are a lot of you that don't want to hear that in October but do when January rolls around. So if you're looking to kind of ease your way back into some college baseball, then go ahead and check my story out at LouisianaSports.net. I think to kind of give a 30,000-foot view of it, there are 7 or 8 pitchers that he feels like have the opportunity to become starters or that ace closer or 2 closers. He gave those names out, and I talked about them at the top of the show, and you can read about them in the story. He talked about the catcher spot. That's going to be Luis Hernandez and Cade Arambiti's spot right now. I don't think that Blaze Priester nor Eddie Yaman are going to be in that running right now. 3 weeks can certainly change things, but it feels like Priester is more of an opportunity to be a DH, and the other 2 guys will catch a little bit more. Talked about the decision on the left side of the infield with Milam and Braswell and what they're going to do there. I got a text earlier today that says that Braswell's playing shortstop and Milam's at third today. I would guess that probably changes tomorrow. I think they've just flip them and just kind of take a look. They couldn't do that as much because Milam had a stress fracture in his foot last spring that took a while to heal into the summer, and then he got sick during fall ball. So they're still looking at that. But then you got the outfield where there's like 7 guys that could play. And then they're just going to have to sift through. And my thought is that those 7 guys are likely going to see a pretty sizable amount of at-bats early in the season to see kind of who gets going to start things. But look, Ashton Larson didn't play very much early last year, and he became a starter late in the season. Stephen Milam won that job at second base, a few weeks into the season. That took a little bit of time. So you never surely know, as you said here in January, but it's always fun to kind of watch how it shakes out. So if you're ready to get into some baseball action, I'll certainly be talking about it almost every day over the next 3 weeks as I get out there and watch a little bit of the scrimmages, and we'll be updating things on LouisianaSports.net day-to-day, talking about a little bit of baseball. It looks like a pretty good baseball team that LSU's got. And if you're a real sicko and want to hear about some of the other teams in the Southeastern Conference, I was watching some of Joe Healy and Mark Etheridge's team previews over at Highway to Hoover. You can find them on YouTube. They're only like 25 minutes long, and you can kind of sift through and see the ones that you're interested in seeing about. Just incidentally, doesn't sound like it's going to be a great year for Ole Miss. LSU doesn't play them, but I don't think it's going to be very good.
I mean, is there?
That's the end of an era.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's got to be, right? Like
they were 1 game away from the end of the era, and then they weren't, and then they won a championship, and now they'll build a statue of him and send him on his way. But that's just the way that it goes.
Real quick here, I don't know if you got a chance to read. Jeff Passan wrote an article about the Dodgers and just what they've been doing with all these signings and how they've kind of rocked the trend of how to structure contracts. I'm just curious on your thoughts on it. Apparently, there's a possibility of a lockout in 26 with the collective bargaining agreement and everything. So how do you think that they're talking about a salary cap? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think they're going to put a salary cap in. I just don't think you're going to find enough players in almost any other player that are willing to do what Shohei Ohtani did, which is to defer hundreds of millions of dollars until after his playing days and to play for $1 million a year. Like, that's just not a sustainable thing.
Yeah.
And they got lucky with that. He's the best player they got, and then they were able to pay, and they're willing to pay more than everybody else. And it terrifies me as a Cubs fan because you have to go through them to win.
Yes.
But I also just massively applaud it and say, yeah, that's your job as the team owner in a game that just rewards you to spend money. Go spend money. I think it's fantastic. So we'll have a ton to do on Monday. We're pulling for Jaden on Sunday night. We'll have some baseball to talk about, LSU basketball as well, Saints coaching talk. Until there is no more Saints coaching search, we'll be doing that as well. Hope everybody has an awesome and fairly warm weekend. That's going to drive you home next on After Further Review. Appreciate our friends at Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. We'll take a couple days. We'll be back Monday, same time, same place, for another edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is that website, and that's where you can find every car that's on the lot. It's online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. The entire line was given the IIHA top safety picks. Some of them were top safety picks plus. That goes from the entry-level vehicle all the way to the highest-end vehicle. They don't shortchange you on safety for one step of the way. Every single one of them has the same standard safety features. It's very, very important to the folks at Genesis, and it's very, very important to you when you're in the market for a new vehicle. So obviously their style, they're sleek, they're comfortable, they drive phenomenally well, they got all the bells and whistles you want, but they're also an incredibly safe vehicle to drive. Get on by Airline at Piku, just across from Women's Hospital, and see the lot. See the line of vehicles. Work with their team of brand ambassadors. It's a fantastic organization, and they're great to work with. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, and you can find every car that's on the lot online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further.